What's the biggest mistake you've made because you were horny? Story 1. I got asked to sit at a friend's parents' house. She set me up with a blow-up mattress in the living room. I got a little bored, so I called my girlfriend, and we proceeded to have video sex right there in the living room. I got a text the next day saying there are cameras in the living room, and they are keeping an eye on their dog while they are away. But if I wanted to, I could turn them the other way. I was pretty embarrassed after that one. Edit. My girlfriend is rarely horny, and so when she called me and started talking dirty, I couldn't help myself. Also, other people have pointed out that whether I had fun or not doesn't matter because I was changing in front of the camera regardless. The same thing just added more embarrassment. Story 2. Pleased myself in a doctor's office, not realizing they could see me from the other room. I was 12, by the way. Story 3. In college, it was a random weeknight when I started talking to my first girlfriend again. We dated in middle school/freshman year of high school several years prior. She was on trimesters or something, so she didn't have classes that week and was at her parents' lake house alone. Truly a "my parents are gone" text, and 5 minutes later my mind was made up and I was on my way to the car. So I drove 2.5 hours one way in the middle of the night in February, upper Midwest, to meet up with this girl and seal the deal that preteen me set in motion 7 years prior. It was just all right. What my pent-up d forgot was that I had a mandatory chemistry lab at 8 a.m. the next day. It was 3 a.m. when the post-nut clarity hit while we were smoking some weed. I ended up pulling an all-nighter on zero sleep, about 6 times the healthy limit of caffeine, and groggy from her stuff. I rolled into the chem building. Sit there for 10 minutes before I realized no one else is there. This was pre-smartphones, and most people didn't carry their laptops to class. So I hopped on a computer to verify the schedule and see the email from the proof that the lab is moved to next week. She sent it 2 minutes after I followed my second brain out the door the night before. Story 4. My sister was getting married to my now brother-in-law when I was 18. I was his best man. We were finishing up getting ready at the church, and I was in one of the back rooms trying to get my tie tied. His younger stepsister, who was my age, had been helping out all day and the night before. She was really cute, and she and I had been flirty all weekend. Once she came into the room to get something, and I asked her if she knew how to tie a tie the right way. She came over to help, got all up close, and was giving me eyes. It just popped off. We locked the door and got down right before the ceremony. Then, later at the reception, her dad found out later and lost his shit. He wasn't married to my brother-in-law's mom, but they'd been together a long time, so I guess she wasn't technically his stepsister. Whatever, he hated me, and every time our families hung out, he would be a dick. It ended with them breaking up, and he moved his daughter to Missouri. You certainly lived out a movie scene there, but the fallout sounds intense. The situation with the father must have been incredibly uncomfortable. Honestly, you were both consenting adults. While it was probably not the best timing, it was your sister's wedding day after all, it's also important to remember that we are human, and sometimes things just happen unexpectedly. Story 5. Took an escort from a bar in Shanghai back to my hotel. Got carried away after she started giving me a blow and lost all sense of rational thought. She hopped on top and we had fun with no protection. She stayed the night and we proceeded to repeat 5 or 6 times and had zero protection. Spent the next 3 months thinking about every tickle and twitch in my tool, convinced it was an STI. Went for monthly STI checks, convinced that I had just taken my own life by HIV. Luckily, no positive results. 10 years later, I think I'm clear. The bad result was that I now look back on it as the hands-down best dirty raw fuck of my life. She was gorgeous and amazing in bed. Story 6. I was staying in a backpacker's dorm with shared bathrooms. I had a thing for this guy staying there as well, and he was into me. But, well, it's hard to find a private spot when you're both staying in 10-bed dorms. So we did what any 20-something would do. We fooled around in the shower. It's worth noting here that we had just switched from a different floor to this one and knew no one. So there we were, me standing in the shower, water running, while he is below me, keeping busy. The next minute, we hear a German accent yell outside the door. "Dude, you're flooding the hallway." In his concentration and my preoccupation, we had managed to block the drain. We came out of the bathroom and, yep, the hallway was flooded. So we spent the next hour or so mopping it and introducing ourselves to the neighbors. Oh yeah, and it leaked in the floor below, so we also had to tell the front desk. Story 7. Got a porn site membership and forgot about it. 4 months and like $150 later, I realized my fuck up. Story 8. Unknowingly became a Thai boy toy in Thailand. My Thai friend brings me for my first Thai massage, and we're each assigned a room. This plus-size Thai lady in her 40s walks in, and the massage starts. Everything was going so well. I was so relaxed. And then I got excited. As we were finishing up, the masseuse whispered some flattering words as she caressed and brushed her hands against my inner thighs and penis. Then she says she hasn't had fun in a while and asked if we could do it here, quietly. I said sure, thinking it was a one-night stand thing. So she pulls out a condom and we start hard. After my friend and I were done and ready to leave, we go and get our bill, and mine read, Thai massage, $10, extra service, $100. My friend looks at my receipt and starts giggling. Then the girls at the counter also start giggling and whispering in Thai to each other. My friend translated their conversation to mean something like, Auntie must be so proud and happy that this handsome young man was willing to pay and have fun with her. Who would have thought? Story 9. I had a one-night stand with a guy who was, in retrospect, seriously self-conscious about his penis size, and kept going on about how if it was the small size, it was just because he has to have fun with it a few times, and it would gradually get bigger until it was its true size. He had a and frankly, that's all I was interested in that night. But then, to make himself feel better, he turned around and started talking about how big and wide my vagina was, but kept reassuring me that it was okay because he liked the challenge. I wish I had snapped my legs shut and given him the boot right then and there. Well, it seems like he was just projecting his own insecurities onto you, which is never fair. Everyone's different, and that's completely okay. A one-night stand should be about mutual enjoyment and respect, not about making the other person feel insecure. Story 10. I was feeling low one day and went to see an escort. Things were going well, and we were both really into the session. I had just come up for air, and she told me to get inside. Without thinking, I went in raw. Well, it felt great, and I didn't last long. I told her I was about to finish and asked her where she wanted me to unload. She grabbed my ass and while biting my earlobe, told me she had an IUD. Well, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Once the glow wore off and I realized what I'd done, I got dressed and left as quickly as I could, politely. I spent the night freaking out and got tested the next day. Then got tested again the following week out of paranoia. I managed to get lucky with no consequences, but damn, I still worry about it. By the way, I got and barebacked a Story 11. I'll keep it short, but I, male 23, went home with this girl, female 28, from the bar, and we stopped by another bar where she almost got into a fight with someone. Yes, I know I should have left after this, but I hadn't had fun in over a year at this point. Once we got back to her place, she started doing hand stuff with me, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but she started to tear up and got the sniffles with a guy, me, she's never met, red flag as well, but again, the previous statement stands. Finally, we started talking about what we're into, and she says, I think the hottest thing in the world is when a guy busts in on me, and I hold his child for 9 months. That was the moment when I knew I needed to get out of there. Long story short, she went to the bathroom, and I bolted. Left some things at her place, but she was kind enough to return them. Some may say I'm a bad guy because this woman had some underlying issues that she was trying to work on, but in an unhealthy way. But to be completely honest, I was nervous that I may have been raped that night, and so I don't feel bad about what I did. Story 12. Probably my most embarrassing moment. I was on my work computer, family business, so nothing locked, and it was a super slow day, and I was alone. Anyways, I was doing a classic 3-minute Facebook check and scrolled down for a second and saw the news post about Adriana Chekchik injuring her back in a foam pool. Figured top comments on that would be golden. Read one funny one that said, her and her scene, with performer I can't remember, is still a goat. Never heard of said performer, so I got curious and Googled her. Of course, photos never do justice. Had to see the performance, you know? So I clicked a random video, glanced, and thought, meh, and was about to close the tab before I noticed my mouse twitching on the screen. What was that? No, that wasn't a mouse error. That was someone. Then, within seconds, I realized the accountant who taps in remotely to finish work came in that exact moment that I had a browser open for less than 60 seconds. The worst part was I could have sworn I had all these remote services off, but she tried to tap in for over an hour and must have done something to wake Splashtop. Probably had it on some type of standby mode. She even called earlier, but I saw a random number and was speaking with a client and ignored it. Anyways, decision time. Do I call her and play it off as nothing or apologize? Naturally, as a fearful 28-year-old, I play it off as nothing. I call, no answer. Then a few minutes later, I get the call back, and her words after exchanging hellos were, "Are you finished with whatever you were doing?" It still burns me. Man, that's a cringe-inducing situation. It seems like the universe chose the worst possible moment for the accountant to check in remotely. Your quick decision to play it off was understandable, considering how embarrassing the situation was. Let's hope she didn't make too much of it and took it with a sense of humor. Story 13. In 1996, my girlfriend and I were both 21 years old, but we didn't live together. I lived with my grandparents. She lived with her strict Catholic parents. It was impossible to have fun at her house, and not that easy at mine. Once we were both horny, and I came up with a plan. I had a job driving a box van delivering wheelchairs, hospital beds, medicine, and so on, and I was allowed to take my box van home every night / over the weekends I had off. So I had my younger brother help me disassemble my futon and pass it to me through our bedroom window. I set the futon up in the back of the box van, put a CD player back there, some incense and candles and whatnot, trying to make it kinda not like the back of a box van, I guess. So I drove over to pick her up one evening around 8 p.m. We told her parents we were going to the grocery store real quick, and we'd be back soon. I drove out to some fig orchards instead. I decided to drive the box van down between the rows of fig trees and get deep back into the orchard so nobody would see the large box van from the road. As we were getting further back down one of those rows, it started to get muddy. Me, having no experience driving in mud, I thought you just gunned it and kept on gunning it until you got through the mud. Yeah, so that didn't work. It just got worse and worse. Eventually, we careen off between two trees about 70 feet off the road, and we're stuck in the mud. I get out, shin deep in mud. She gets out to help me. We're both muddy, and there's no getting this box van out. We hike out of this orchard into the nearest neighborhood. No cell phones these days. We begin knocking on doors of houses in the neighborhood, asking people if we can use their phones. The whole damn thing was such a mess. I got her home close to midnight and had exactly zero fun that day. She never even saw the futon or had any idea what we were doing until I told her my failed plans as I was driving her home. That girl stuck it out with me, dumb decisions and all. We were married for 14 years. Our children are 23 years old now. However, we divorced in 2013, but she's still like my best friend, so it's a fairly happy ending kind of story. What a classy guy, right? What woman wants to bang in the back of a box van? Reply 1. That sounds like a pretty cool idea. I don't know why you think it sounds so bad. Sure, it's not the best accommodations, but you went out of your way to make it more special and private than just sneaking around. Story 15. This happened a couple of months ago. I was horny, so I went to please myself in the bathroom because I was staying in a hostel. I was having a good time. Then I heard a glass window breaking and me looking down to see blood pumping out of my dick like I opened a water tap. Turns out some dumb fucks were playing cricket and hit the ball straight onto the glass window and broke it. The glass shard fell right on my penis. Thankfully, the bleeding stopped a few minutes later after I lost my erection. Had to run to the emergency clinic. Thankfully, I didn't lose my dick. Story 16. I got my first serious girlfriend in high school who was 2 grades below me. So when I finished my 3rd year and moved 500 kilometers south, we were still a couple. I was so in love, and most of all, horny, and I commuted every single weekend. Even though I was poor, I managed to take the bus to the nearest station after school. Waited for the long-distance bus for 4 to 5 hours. Went to a larger city to hitchhike my way there. I was there Friday night or Saturday morning. Anyways, we found ourselves locked in her bedroom and went at it until Sunday morning. I made my way down to school again and went to class straight from the bus Monday morning. This went on for almost a year. Story 17. It was the year 2000, and I was 14 when I finally got my desktop computer. One of those big plastic mammoths that connected at the speed of dial-up. I stayed up long hours chatting to random people on Yahoo. It was there that I met James. He was a year older than me, and he was from England. He was classically handsome and witty. I sent him a photo of one of my older sister's friends because I was pretty tomboyish and plain at that age. We ended up talking every day, as often as we could. If I recall, back then it was not free to voice chat with a microphone, or maybe the connection wasn't great. Either way, we had began talking on the phone, but my family was poor, so he always had to call me, and it was very expensive. Did I mention he was from England? Just the sound of his voice made me swoon. I could have listened to the kid talk all day. One day, I accidentally took my friend's purse after a school function, which was tangled in my jacket. I opened it, and inside was a phone card. This was back in the day of landline phones, and with this card, you could dial a number from any phone and have it billed to your home phone. If I used this card, it would be billed to my friend's home phone. So what did I do? I called James. I talked to James for several months using this phone card. We had intense, uninhibited phone sex at all hours of the day and night. I mean, we role-played, we used items from around the house, and we took grainy pictures for each other, in which I painstakingly hid my face because, if you recall, he believed I was one of my sister's pretty friends. We got fully into it. I don't know why I never thought this would catch up to me. Maybe it's true what they say that brains aren't fully formed in the teenage years, or maybe I was just blinded by his flirty, filthy British accent. After the first month, I thought we were in the clear, so we talked for a couple more, and then shit hit the fan. My friend's parents got the phone bill to the tune of $10,000. They sued. They ended up paying down a bunch of it, and I had to pay restitution on the rest. I was forbidden to see my friend again until we were both legal adults and they couldn't stop us anyway. It took me several years to pay off the restitution with my after-school job at McDonald's. Stupid, but that guy buttered my bread. 8 out of 10 would probably do it again. Story 18. I had to be in my early teens, if not pre-teens. This was a time when phone chat lines were advertised on BET and VH1. My dad worked 2 jobs, one in the daytime and one overnight, so I had quite a bit of alone time. My curiosity piqued, and I decided to hit some of these chat lines. In all honesty, I can't remember any of the convos I had on there. I don't even remember if I got off at all, but I do remember that I was on there a lot. Well, the day the phone bill came in the mail wasn't very good, if you can imagine. The charges were huge, and my dad was livid. There was yelling and screaming, of course, but to top it off, he ordered me some new bowling shoes as a gift that just came in that day. He was seething the whole day. The car ride out to the bowling alley was awkward, but when we picked up the shoes, it was when it came to a head. We were back in the car after picking the shoes up, and I was just trying to disappear at that point and not be noticed at all, so it slipped my mind to say thank you. Well, that set him off. He yelled, "Mother f***, you're not even gonna say thank you?" And then he reached over and punched me in the face. My head bounced off the passenger side window and proceeded to say thank you profusely. To this day, I've never been punched that hard by anyone, ever. Have you ever been hit so hard in the face that your eye goes lazy? I didn't even know that could happen. For the next 3 days, whenever I blinked, my left eye would straighten up, but if I held it open, it just started to roll to the left. I was afraid that would be permanent, but I didn't want to tell him about it because he'd probably just say that was what I deserved or something. Luckily, it cleared up after day 3. Yes, I know this was child abuse now. There are several instances where my parents probably could have recognized I was a kid exploring his budding in unhealthy ways and could have steered me in the right direction, but they didn't. And now I'm in therapy. I just realized I still have those shoes. Firstly, I'm really sorry you had to go through that. No child should ever face any form of physical violence, let alone from a parent. It's clear you were just experimenting out of curiosity, which is a normal part of growing up. Unfortunately, the lack of guidance or open discussion led you down a path that had pretty severe repercussions. The fact that you're in therapy shows that you're taking steps to heal from these traumatic experiences, and that's commendable. Hang in there and keep pushing forward. It's not easy, but remember, it's okay to seek help and take time for yourself. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.